You've been lied to about peace. They told you it comes from controlling everything, from fixing every problem, from making your life look perfect on the outside. But if that were true, why do so many people with the perfect job, the perfect house, the perfect smile, still lie awake at night? Why does your mind still race when the lights go out? Why do you feel tired even after hours in bed? The truth is, peace doesn't come from the outside. It comes from understanding the inside. And for over 2,500 years, Buddhist wisdom has held the key. Not in some temple far away, not in complicated rituals, but in simple truths about your thoughts, your fears, your cravings, and how to let them go. This isn't just another sleep audio. This is ancient truth, spoken gently, to help your mind finally let go, to help your body soften, to help your heart rest. As you listen, something inside you will begin to shift. The noise will fade, the tension will melt, and in its place there will be stillness, a kind you may not have felt in a long time. Tonight, you're not just falling asleep, you're coming home to yourself. Calm, present, free. Are you ready to begin? You're still here. That means something inside you wants more than just sleep. Maybe it's rest, real rest. Not just for your body, but for the mind that doesn't stop. For the thoughts that spin quietly behind closed eyes. For the worry that pretends to be planning, but never brings peace. You're not broken, you're human. And the teachings you're about to hear were made for humans just like you. For minds that think too much, for hearts that grip too tightly, for nights that feel too long. There is a reason you feel this tension at night, a reason the stillness brings out the noise. And it starts with a chain, a silent chain, made of habits you never chose, but repeat every day. This is where the Buddhist teaching of dependent origination begins, and this is where your freedom begins too. In the time of the Buddha, there were no neuroscience labs, no therapy rooms, yet the understanding of the human mind was precise, deep, surgical. The law of dependent origination, called Paticca Samuppada, is not a theory. It's a map of how suffering is created in the mind, and more importantly, how it can be undone. At the heart of it is this: nothing arises on its own. Everything is caused, even your anxiety at night, even your overthinking, even the fear that wakes you up at 3 a.m. with your chest tight and your mind spiraling. You didn't choose to be anxious, but something else gave rise to it, and something else gave rise to that, like dominoes falling, thought by thought. It starts with ignorance, not knowing. Not the kind of ignorance that means stupidity, but a blindness, a fog, the part of the mind that forgets how things really work, the part that believes deeply that control brings peace, that outcomes will fix us, that one more achievement, one more relationship, one more solved problem will finally be enough. But it never is. Because when ignorance is there, craving follows. Craving not just for pleasure, but craving for certainty, for answers, for tomorrow to go a certain way, for other people to behave the way you wish, for life to unfold according to your plan. This craving isn't loud. Sometimes it shows up as a gentle ache in your stomach when you think about an upcoming meeting. Sometimes it's the way you scroll endlessly, looking for something you can't name. Sometimes it's the way you rehearse conversations that haven't happened yet. This craving is fed by attachment, upadana in Pali. Attachment to identity, roles, control, even the storyline in your head. You think you're just preparing. You think you're being responsible. But underneath it, you're holding on. Tight. To be honest, your body already knows this. The chest gets tight, the breath shortens, your jaw clenches, and you think, if I don't hold it all together, it will all fall apart. But that's the trap, because craving leads to becoming the one who must be prepared, becoming the one who gets it right, becoming the fixer, the controller, the warrior. It's not just a thought, it becomes who you think you are. And when you become something, you fear losing it. Now, sleep becomes a battleground. Because what if tomorrow doesn't go how you need it to? What if the thing you're waiting for doesn't happen? What if you don't wake up feeling ready? This is how anxiety is born, not in a moment, but in a process. Each link giving birth to the next. But here's the beauty. When you see the chain, you can stop it. You don't have to fight anxiety. You don't even have to fix it. You just stop feeding the next link. You meet craving, and you don't obey. You feel the urge to control, and you don't follow. You notice the thought, and you let it float. You don't push it away. You don't make it wrong. You simply see it for what it is, just a ripple, not the ocean. The Buddha never said suffering was a punishment. He said it was a misunderstanding. We believe we need to chase comfort, avoid pain, control outcomes. But that belief is what makes us tired. That belief is the reason peace feels far away. The mind wants to think its way to safety. But safety isn't in the future. It's here, now. In the breath you are taking. In the way your body is slowly relaxing with each word. In the stillness that opens when you let go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means giving space. Space for life to unfold. Space for you to rest without needing all the answers tonight. Space for the world to move without your grip. Because here's something your worry doesn't know. You don't have to be in control to be okay. You don't have to know what tomorrow brings to sleep deeply tonight. You don't have to fix the future to deserve peace right now. The teaching of dependent origination shows us this, that if we interrupt just one link in the chain, the whole pattern collapses. You don't have to undo your past. You don't have to rewire everything overnight. You only need to see the craving when it arises, and not build a house in it, not build an identity in it, not call it me, because worry always begins with me. What will happen to me? Will I be okay? Will I succeed? Fail? Be seen? Be rejected? But if there's no fixed self, who exactly is worrying? Who exactly needs to be protected? Who is being threatened by tomorrow? This is not a riddle, it's a doorway, a soft place where you can set the burden down. The mind tries to hold everything, but the Dharma teaches you to release. Release the grip of expectation. Release the storyline of what if. Release the belief that you're not safe unless everything is certain. Your body is tired because your mind is always running. But what if you didn't have to run anymore? What if you could sit, breathe and say, right now, I don't know, and that's okay. This is not passivity, it's wisdom. It's what arises when you stop clinging to control, when you stop mistaking your thoughts for truth, when you stop chasing sleep and start receiving rest. Anxiety is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It shows you where you still believe you must fight, where you still believe you're alone, where you still believe that peace must be earned. But peace isn't earned, it's revealed. And it's revealed in the moments where you let things be. Let the day be what it was. Let tomorrow be what it will. Let your breath be enough for now. This is the end of the chain. Not because the world is fixed, but because your heart no longer needs it to be. Right now, feel the bed supporting your body. Feel your chest rising and falling without effort. Notice the sounds around you. Notice how none of them are a threat. You are not in danger. You are not behind. You are not late for your life. You are here, alive, breathing, and ready to rest. The Buddha said, "When this is, that is. When this ceases, that ceases." And now you have begun to cease. Cease the clinging. Cease the resistance. Cease the endless loop of becoming. You are not the one holding it all together, and you never were. So tonight, let the chain fall. Let the wheel stop turning. Let the story soften. Sleep is not the absence of thought. It's the presence of peace. And peace begins when you stop reaching for it. Let this be your practice. Let this be your permission to stop trying, to stop proving, to stop chasing, and to simply rest. You've already taken the first step, and that's enough. Stay with your breath. Stay with this stillness. Stay here. You are safe. You are loved. And the night no longer needs your worry. And now that the weight has softened and your body knows how to rest without carrying tomorrow, we turn towards something deeper, something most people spend their lives avoiding. Not because it's dangerous, but because they believe looking at it will take their peace. They're wrong, because there is one truth more powerful than anxiety, more freeing than control, and more comforting than certainty. The truth that everything ends, including this moment, including you. This is not something to fear. This is something to understand, to feel, to work with. This is Maranasati, the contemplation of death. A practice used not to scare the mind, but to calm it. Because when you truly understand that you will die, something beautiful happens. Your grip loosens, your priorities rearrange, the noise fades, and peace, the kind that no external success can offer, begins to rise quietly from within. Maranasati is not morbid, it is not dark, it is clear, honest, liberating. The Buddha taught it not to cause despair, but to end it. Because when you fully realize that your time is limited, every moment becomes more precious. And paradoxically, instead of panic, you find relief. You stop delaying your peace. You stop believing there will be a perfect time to feel okay. Because if not now, when? Most anxiety is rooted in an illusion of endlessness. The belief that there will always be more time, that you'll eventually catch up, that rest can be earned later. But that illusion keeps you tense, always waiting, always chasing. When you remember death, that illusion breaks, and what replaces it is presence. Contemplating death brings you closer to life. You see what really matters. You see how many of your worries are built on things that, in the end, won't even exist. The deadlines, the status, the fears about what people think. They all fade under the light of impermanence. And when they fade, your breath becomes enough. Your body becomes home. Sleep becomes sacred. To contemplate death doesn't mean to obsess over it. It means to hold it gently in your awareness, like a quiet companion. To remind yourself without fear that this moment is not guaranteed, that this breath is a gift. Not everyone who went to sleep last night woke up. Not everyone who made plans for tomorrow will get to see them unfold. And knowing this doesn't make you hopeless. It wakes you up. The mind has a tendency to wander into regrets and fears, but when death is kept close in the heart, the mind slows down. Not because it is scared, but because it understands there is no time to waste on noise. There is no time to waste on pretending or proving or performing. You begin to live, even in the quietest of moments, with meaning. People often think the thought of death will steal their peace, but it is distraction that steals peace. It is illusion that creates fear. Death, when fully seen, brings a stillness so profound that the mind has nowhere left to run. Nothing to chase, nothing to protect. In that space, you can finally rest. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped trying to make it permanent. The body, too, softens with this understanding. There is no need to hold yourself tight through the night. There is no benefit in clenching your jaw over a tomorrow that might never come. When you accept your mortality, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, honest way, you begin to relax. You stop demanding guarantees, and that's when sleep comes, like a river that no longer needs to be pushed. Throughout Buddhist history, monks and nuns have meditated in charnel grounds. Surrounded by decay, they didn't look away. They sat with the reality that this body, too, would one day return to the earth. Not as punishment, but as practice. To see through the illusion of permanence, to understand that clinging is suffering, and to discover, in that truth, a peace that is unshakable. You do not need to sit among bones to receive this teaching. You only need to remember, quietly, gently, that you are passing through, that all forms change, that no experience lasts, that this thought will fade, that this night will end, that even the restless energy in your chest has a time limit. When you embrace death, not as something that will happen later, but as a presence woven into every moment, you awaken to the truth that every single breath is a blessing, every exhale is a release, every blink is sacred, and every night you get to rest is a miracle not to be overlooked. This teaching does not invite fear, it dissolves it. Because fear is born from pretending we are not vulnerable. Fear grows when we think we can outrun time. But death puts things in their right place. It reminds you that you do not need to do everything. You do not need to be everything. You only need to be here. You see, anxiety often comes from overimportance. The belief that your mistakes are fatal, that your future is fragile, that your life is one misstep away from collapse. But when you reflect on death, you understand that life was never about perfection. It was always about presence, and presence can never be taken away. It can only be forgotten. But now, you are remembering. Right now, you are lying here with a body that breathes, with a heart that still beats, with a mind that can listen and understand. That, in itself, is extraordinary. There are no guarantees you'll get another night like this. And that's not a reason to panic. That's a reason to be kind. Kind to yourself. kind to this moment, kind to the need for rest. Let go of the idea that death is something far off. It is not distant, but it is not cruel either. It is simply the way life moves. All things change, and in that constant change, you are reminded that grasping is pointless. Control is an illusion. What brings peace is not having control, but letting go of the need for it. Buddhists often say, death is certain. The time of death is uncertain. Those words are not meant to depress you. They are meant to set you free. Free from delay, free from worry, free from trying to stretch time as if it owes you something. Time owes you nothing. But this moment, this gentle breath, offers you everything. There's a stillness that arises when you stop trying to outrun the truth. When you stop pretending that life is infinite. When you sit quietly with the reality that your time is unknown, your legacy unfinished, and your story still unfolding. That stillness is not fear. It's clarity. Most people don't want to think about death. They believe it will take their joy. But the truth is, most people are unhappy because they live like they're going to live forever. They postpone joy. They delay peace. They trade rest for achievement. But when you remember death, you return to simplicity. You don't need to chase anything tonight. You don't need to fix anything. You only need to be here, breathing, soft, open. There is a tenderness in remembering you will die. It humbles the ego. It silences the noise. It reminds you that no status, no possession, no amount of approval can protect you from impermanence. And that's okay, because you never needed protection. You needed perspective. Maranasati is not about morbidity. It's about meaning. And meaning comes when you realize how fragile life is, not in fear, but in gratitude. You are not entitled to another morning, and so tonight becomes sacred. Your bed becomes holy ground, your breath becomes a prayer. Not a desperate plea, but a quiet thank you. If this was your last night, what would you worry about? What would still matter? Who would you be trying to impress? And what would you finally let go of? The answers to those questions are the doorway to peace. Because peace comes when your life becomes simple again, when it's not about what you'll do tomorrow or how others see you, but about how you treat the only thing you truly have, this moment. Maranasati brings you back to that, again and again, until the noise dissolves, until the breath slows, until sleep becomes a soft surrender, not an escape. You do not need to be afraid of letting go. You've done it 1,000 times already. Every breath you take is a letting go of the last one. Every night you fall asleep is a letting go of who you were that day. And one day, when the final letting go comes, it will not be a punishment. It will be a return, like the ocean welcoming a wave. Tonight, let yourself fall into that rhythm. Let yourself soften, not because everything is solved, but because you see clearly. You know what's real. You know what matters. And most of the things that kept you awake last week don't matter now. They never did. This teaching is not about thinking. It is about feeling. Feeling your way back to truth. Feeling the weight drop from your chest. Feeling the tenderness of being here, even briefly. Feeling the stillness that death teaches better than anything else. If your time were shorter than you thought, would you still waste it on worry? Would you still hold grudges? Would you still rush past your own breath to chase something out there? Or would you pause? Would you stay? Would you say, "Thank you for this moment," even if it's imperfect? Maranasati invites you to answer with your presence, to stop needing life to be different before you can love it, to stop needing the future to be certain before you can rest. There is peace in remembering, not because death is beautiful, but because death is true. And truth, when met with compassion, always leads to peace. Let your breath slow now. Let your thoughts loosen. Let this moment be the only thing you serve tonight. You do not need to hold on to anything. The practice has already begun, and you are already free. You've now let go of the need to control tomorrow. You've rested in the truth that nothing lasts forever, and you've made peace with what cannot be changed. But even after all this, there's something subtle that still lingers. A residue. It's not fear. It's not craving. It's the quiet weight of your own actions, the conversations you had, the choices you made, the words you spoke without thinking, the ones you didn't speak but wish you had. What remains unsettled in the mind at night often comes from the day that's just passed, not from what happened to you, but from how you responded. And that's where karma enters, not as punishment, not as fate, but as a mirror. Karma, in the simplest sense, is cause and effect. Thought becomes intention. Intention becomes action. Action becomes a result. And that result echoes. Sometimes loud, sometimes silent, but always present. When the day ends and the world grows quiet, that echo is easier to hear. It's what makes the mind restless even when the room is calm. It's what keeps the heart heavy even when there's nothing urgent left to do. But karma is not a force outside you. It is you. It's the ripple of your choices, and because of that, it can also be cleared. Closing the karmic ledger each night isn't about judgment. It's not about guilt. It's about awareness. Quiet reflection, not shame. Clarity, not perfection. The mind wants to pretend the day is over simply because the clock says so. But the heart knows better. The heart knows what's unresolved. That's why nightly reflection matters, not for punishment, but for release. Begin by remembering the day without analyzing. Let it unfold like a story. From the first word you spoke to the last interaction you had, bring it to mind without trying to fix anything. Just observe. What mood were you in when you woke up? What was the first thing you did? How did you treat your own thoughts? Did you meet them with resistance or care? Then move gently into your actions. What you did, how you moved through spaces, how you treated others, even when no one was watching. Karma is not just about big decisions. It's in the smallest things. The tone you used with a stranger, the thoughts you allowed to grow in silence, the energy you carried into a room, the pause before you reacted, or the lack of it. All of it matters, because all of it plants seeds. And those seeds don't disappear when the sun goes down. They stay, unless you release them. Reflection is how you release them. It's how you say to your own heart, I see what happened. I see what I carried. And now I let it go. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be honest. Look at your intentions more than your outcomes, because sometimes your words were clumsy, but your heart meant well. Sometimes you got it wrong, but you were trying to protect something. When you understand your own motives clearly, even mistakes become teachings. Now look at your speech. The Buddha taught that speech creates powerful karma. Words can heal or harm, open or close. Review what you said, not just what was heard, but how it was offered. Was it helpful? Was it kind? Was it necessary? If not, acknowledge it. Not to punish yourself, but to become more skillful. Every night is a chance to refine your speech, to become more aware of its power, and to grow more intentional with your voice. Next, turn inward. Not just to what you did, but to how you responded. Where was there resistance? Where did anger flare up? Where did you fall into old patterns? Not because you're flawed, but because you're still learning. There is no peace in pretending you handled everything well. There is deep peace in admitting where you didn't and choosing to do better tomorrow. And here's the secret. When you reflect honestly, the mind begins to settle, because guilt thrives in avoidance. Restlessness feeds on unfinished business. But the moment you face yourself without defense, that energy dissolves. It's like clearing the desk before going to bed. The tasks are not erased, but the clutter is gone. What remains is clarity. Many people lie awake at night not because they're afraid of the future, but because they're avoiding the past. Not because their life is in danger, but because their integrity feels slightly out of alignment. Karma is not only about what happens to you, it's about how whole you feel with yourself. The less divided you are inside, the deeper you rest. So each night, bring yourself back into wholeness. Let reflection be the bridge. This isn't about keeping score. It's about reconnecting with your own values. It's a way of asking, did I live today in alignment with what matters to me? Was I truthful, kind, generous, mindful? And where I wasn't, can I forgive myself and start fresh tomorrow? The Buddha said that even a single drop of water, again and again, can fill a large vessel. So too can small actions, repeated daily, create a life of clarity and peace. Reflection is one of those drops. It adds up. It changes you, slowly, gently, without pressure. There's also a deeper reason this practice matters before sleep. When you don't clear the day's karma, it often continues in your dreams. The mind keeps processing, the heart keeps speaking. You wake up feeling like you didn't really rest. But when you face the day's events honestly, they no longer need to follow you into the night. Some people try to silence the mind with noise, scrolling, entertainment, distraction. But silence is not something to be avoided. It's something to be entered with care. Reflection prepares you for silence. It clears the fog so you can step into rest without baggage. In Buddhist monastic life, the end of the day often includes confession, not in the religious sense, but as a simple acknowledgement. I see what I've done. I see where I caused harm. I commit to awareness. It's not dramatic. It's not emotional. It's just honest. And that honesty is where true peace begins. You can do this too, not formally, not with ritual, just with sincerity. Sitting quietly in your bed, hands on your body, heart open, you can say, "This was my day. These were my choices. These are the things I'm grateful for. These are the things I release." Gratitude matters too, not as a way to ignore your mistakes, but to remember the goodness. Because karma is not only about wrong action, it's about every kind word, every moment of patience, Every small act of generosity you offered, those matter. Acknowledge them, celebrate them. They are seeds of peace. Water them. Even when the day was difficult, there was still beauty, still effort, still goodness. Don't let the mind fixate only on what went wrong. Let it also remember what went right. The moments you paused, the times you chose kindness when you could have chosen defense. The quiet victories no one saw, they count. They always count. As you reflect, be gentle. Your mind doesn't need a judge. It needs a witness. Your heart doesn't need shame. It needs space. Let your reflection be like a soft cloth wiping the dust from a mirror, not scrubbing, not forcing, just clearing what doesn't need to be carried into sleep. Some people think karma is fixed, that if they've made mistakes, they must suffer. But that's not true. The Buddha taught that karma can be purified, not by hiding it, but by seeing it clearly and choosing differently. Reflection is how purification begins, not by being perfect, but by being present. Tonight, let yourself be present, not just to your breath, but to your own story, not to relive it, but to close it. Let this day come to an end in your heart before it ends in time. Say what needs to be said in your mind. Forgive who needs to be forgiven, even if it's you. Release what doesn't belong to this moment. When you do this, sleep becomes easier, not because your mind is empty, but because your heart is no longer crowded. You don't need to control your thoughts. You only need to make peace with them, and peace comes through clarity. The ledger is never about balance in a mathematical sense. It's about balance in the soul. Does your day feel closed, or is something left open? If it's open, close it with intention. You don't need to fix it. You only need to see it. And in that seeing, healing begins. Let the breath deepen now. Let the body sink. Let the story of this day soften in the background. You have seen yourself. You have honored the truth. And that is enough. There is nothing more you need to carry. The karmic echoes are quiet now. The heart has been heard. You are ready for sleep. Not just as rest, but as return to stillness, to clarity, to the peace that comes when nothing is left unsaid within you. This day is done. Let it be complete, and let yourself begin again with ease. You've now stepped into a space of honesty. You've seen your day clearly. You've touched your intentions and actions without turning away. And something has already softened. But even with clarity, the heart may still cling. The mind may still replay moments. Some things you said, some things left undone. A plan that didn't unfold. An emotion that lingered longer than you wanted. You've reflected, you've acknowledged, and yet, part of you might still hold on. That's because awareness is only one part of release. The other part is deeper, the willingness to let go. Not just of what you did, but of the story you've attached to it. This is where anicca becomes your guide, not as an abstract idea, but as a living truth. Anicca means impermanence. It's one of the core insights the Buddha taught, not just to make sense of life, but to transform how we relate to it. Everything changes, not just the world around you, but the stories you carry inside. The pain you felt this morning, the joy that surprised you, the moment of anger that flared and faded, the plan that didn't go as you hoped. None of it is fixed. None of it stays. And that's not a problem. That's the path. So often, the struggle isn't what happened. It's the way we hold on to what happened. The mind loves to repeat things, not because it's cruel, but because it thinks repetition brings control. If you replay the conversation, maybe next time it will end differently. If you rethink the plan, maybe the result will feel better. If you hold tightly enough, maybe you won't feel regret. But holding on doesn't free you from the past. It ties you to it. And impermanence is what cuts the rope. When you realize that all things pass, your relationship to the day begins to shift. You stop trying to carve permanence into what was always temporary. That awkward exchange at work, the tension with a loved one, the opportunity you missed. They came, they left, and your clinging is the only thing that kept them here. Anicca doesn't ask you to deny your experience. It invites you to stop turning experience into identity. The emotion you felt wasn't wrong. It was just passing. The disappointment didn't define you. It visited. The plan that failed didn't collapse your worth. It simply ended. Every moment contains the seed of its own disappearance. When you understand this deeply, you start to release not by effort, but by insight. There is nothing to force, only something to see clearly. Tonight, let that clarity guide you. As you lie down, scan through your day one more time. Not to judge, not to analyze, just to see what you're still holding. Not the actions, you've already looked at those, but the attachments. What part of you is still stuck in a moment that's already gone? Where do you feel the tightness of clinging? What would it feel like to soften there? You don't have to let go by pushing. You can let go by seeing that there's nothing to hold. That memory will fade. That feeling will change. That unfinished task will find its place. You are not frozen in time. Life is not a fixed painting. It's a river. You step into it, and it keeps moving, with or without your permission. Sometimes you cling to stories because they feel like protection. If you let go of the anger, will it mean what happened was okay? If you release the disappointment, will it mean you no longer care? If you allow the plan to dissolve, does it mean you gave up? But none of those things are true. Letting go is not forgetting. It's remembering what is real now. The now is where healing happens. But if you are pulled backward by unfinished stories, the now gets blurred. You miss what is possible because you're clinging to what was. That's why impermanence is not only a truth, it's a medicine, a way of loosening what was never yours to hold forever. Every emotional event from your day, no matter how strong, has already begun to fade. Your awareness brings it into light, but Anicca allows it to dissolve. If you let it. Not everything needs closure in the form of resolution. Sometimes closure comes when you stop trying to fix the past and allow it to be incomplete. Incomplete is not broken. It's just what happens when life moves faster than your plans, when people respond in ways you didn't expect, when the world, in its unpredictable rhythm, moves beyond your design. When you understand impermanence, you stop resisting this movement. You begin to trust it. Anicca teaches that pain changes, but it also teaches that pleasure changes. This can feel disappointing at first, Why can't joy stay forever? But that's the beauty. Because joy is impermanent, you learn to appreciate it. Because sorrow is impermanent, you learn not to fear it. You stop grasping at good moments and fighting bad ones. You stop turning today's stories into your permanent self. You are not the tiredness you felt at noon. You are not the frustration in that meeting. You are not the regret over what you didn't finish. You are not your to-do list, not your emotions, not your titles. You are the one watching it all arise and fade. The stillness behind the movement, the space that does not cling. Tonight, you get to rest in that space. The space that doesn't need stories to be complete. The space that doesn't argue with reality. The space that welcomes impermanence as a friend, not a threat. To live with awareness of anicca is not to be detached from life. It is to be more fully in it, because you no longer need it to be perfect. You stop needing things to last in order to matter. You start seeing value in the very fact that things change. Because if this heaviness will pass, then you don't have to fight it. And if this moment of peace will pass, you can cherish it more fully. Clarity grows in this understanding. Even your identity changes. The story you told yourself this morning may already feel different tonight. The doubt you carried may feel lighter. The confidence you lacked may have flickered back in, and none of it is wrong. You are not fixed. You are a process. When you stop expecting consistency from yourself, you begin to soften. You let yourself evolve. You stop labeling every emotion as truth. You allow yourself to be new. This is freedom. Not the freedom to control everything, but the freedom that comes from needing nothing to stay the same. You begin to live in harmony with the nature of things, like the tree that sheds its leaves without regret, like the river that never holds itself in place. The pain of today might feel sharp now, but it's already different than it was an hour ago. And tomorrow, it will be softer still. The unfinished conversation, the unanswered message, the unmet goal, none of them are static. What's left open doesn't have to be a burden. It can be a doorway to patience, to gentleness, to growth. Growth doesn't happen because you hold tighter. It happens because you let life move through you without resistance. That's what anicca teaches you. And when you live that truth, rest is no longer something you chase. It becomes natural, because there is nothing left to hold. The mind will try to bring back today's stories. It will replay words, replay plans, replay emotions. Not because it's trying to hurt you, but because it doesn't yet trust that letting go is safe. But you can teach it, slowly, gently, by whispering back, that moment has passed, that thought is fading, that plan will evolve, that emotion has served its time. Even the body changes as you begin to let go. The breath deepens, the muscles soften, the nervous system settles. Because when the mind stops replaying stories, the body no longer needs to protect you from them. Sleep becomes not a battle, but a return, a coming home. You're not who you were this morning, and that's a blessing. You've changed, grown, released. And even if the day brought pain, it didn't define you. It simply visited, like weather, like wind, like waves. Nothing is stuck. Not your thoughts, not your feelings, not your path. When you accept this, you stop needing to rewrite the day. You let it rest as it is. You let yourself rest as you are. Now take a breath and feel the truth in your body. The shift that's already happening, the soft untangling of what doesn't need to stay, the subtle release of everything that can't follow you into sleep. This is the power of anicca, not just as a teaching, but as an experience. Let the mind rest in that. Let the heart rest in that. Let the story of today dissolve without needing to be completed. You've done what you could. You've seen what needed to be seen. And now you let it go. What's done is done. What's left will find its time, and you are free to rest. Now that the stories of today have dissolved, now that your breath flows more easily and the mind is less tangled in the loops of memory, something else becomes clear. Emptiness is not the same as loneliness. You've let go of the attachments, the unfinished plans, the emotional weight of the day, but in the silence that remains, another need begins to stir quietly in the background. A need not for stimulation, not for more doing, but for presence. A sense that even as you rest in solitude, you are not meant to walk this path entirely alone. There is strength in being with yourself, but there is also peace in being accompanied, not physically, not socially, but spiritually. This is where the practice of spiritual companionship begins. In Buddhism, Sangha means community, a gathering of those who walk the path of awakening. It traditionally refers to monks and nuns, but its deeper meaning goes beyond structure. It points to those beings, living or not, who embody wisdom, who hold space for truth, who walk beside you in silence. You may never meet them in person, they may not be in the room, but they are near. Their presence lives in teachings, in memory, in the feeling of steadiness that arises when you remember you are not the first to go through this. The Buddha walked this path. So did his disciples. So have countless beings across time and space who sat with fear and chose love, who faced impermanence and found peace, who met suffering and responded with compassion. Their bodies may be gone, but their awareness remains. You do not have to be religious to feel this. You only have to know what it means to be seen, even when no one is looking. To feel held, even when no hand touches yours. The mind can recreate stress through memory, but it can also recreate comfort. It can build safety through attention. You've done it 1,000 times without realizing, remembering someone's voice when you needed strength, hearing the words of a teacher long after they've left the room, finding calm in the thought of someone who helped you feel seen. These are not fantasies. These are inner resources. They live inside you, and tonight, they're here to help you sleep. You can access the Sangha anytime. And in this quiet hour, when the outer world has slowed and the inner world is ready to release, this is the perfect time. The Sangha you invite may take different forms. It could be a teacher whose words brought you clarity, a mentor who once believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, a wise elder whose presence made you feel calm without saying much. Or perhaps it's someone you've never met but feel connected to, a lineage holder, a writer, a guide whose life embodied the values you now long to deepen. You don't have to see their faces clearly. You don't need to hear their voices. All you need is the quiet willingness to be accompanied. You don't ask anything of them. You don't need answers. You only let them be near, resting around you like a circle of calm, not watching, not judging, just here, witnessing your stillness, supporting your release. This practice isn't about escape. It's not about pretending someone will fix things for you. It's about remembering that truth never walks alone, and neither do you. In your moments of struggle, someone else has been there too. In your moments of doubt, someone else has once whispered the same questions into the dark. You are not separate from the great stream of seekers, healers, and teachers. You are part of it. As you lie here, you can begin to sense their presence. Quiet, grounded, spacious. The air feels fuller, but not heavy. There's a subtle warmth, like the room itself has become sacred. Their presence doesn't ask anything from you. You don't need to perform, explain, or defend yourself. There is no pressure to impress, only permission to rest more deeply than you usually allow. If your mind starts to wander, it's okay. Just return to the sense of being supported. Let the thought pass and lean back into the feeling that you are not alone. That wise ones are holding space for you to surrender. That your vulnerability is not a flaw, but a doorway to deeper connection. This Sangha isn't limited to humans. You may feel the presence of qualities instead: compassion, patience, courage. These too can be companions, not as abstract words, but as living energies that surround and soothe. Compassion sitting at your left shoulder, clarity at your right, peace at your feet, steadiness behind you, trust above you. They are not fantasies, they are states of mind cultivated by practice, summoned by attention. As you rest in this circle, your nervous system begins to recalibrate. You stop feeling like you must be alert to survive the night. You no longer need to scan for threat in the silence. The body learns, through repetition, that safety can exist even when the future is unknown. That rest can be sacred even when the day was hard. That sleep is allowed even when your life is still unfolding. Spiritual companionship is not about being rescued. It's about being reminded. Reminded that you belong. That you are part of something larger than your thoughts. That your heart's longing for peace is shared by every being who's ever lived. When you know that, loneliness doesn't hold the same power. Isolation becomes solitude. Solitude becomes refuge. Many people carry the belief that they must do everything alone. That asking for help, even silently, is weakness. That resting in the presence of others is dependency. But this belief is not truth. It's conditioning. The truth is, interconnection is your nature. Dependence is not failure. It is life expressing itself through relationship. And the most powerful relationships are sometimes the quietest ones. Tonight, let yourself lean into this truth. You are not meant to hold everything by yourself. You were never asked to. There are hands you cannot see, holding space for your rest. There are minds that have walked this road before you, lighting the path not by instruction, but by being. You may feel tears arise. That is not sadness. That is your system exhaling. That is the armor loosening. That is the soul remembering that it never needed to carry so much for so long in silence. Let the Sangha surround you now, not with noise, not with answers, just with presence. Silent, steady presence, the kind that says, rest is safe, stillness is welcome. You are not too much. You are not too far. You are simply here, and that is enough. If thoughts rise, let them be held in this circle. You don't need to resolve them. You don't need to resist them. They are seen. They are softened. They are allowed to float and fade like clouds in a wide sky. This is not about worship. This is about connection, not through belief, but through shared experience, through the felt knowing that others have sat where you now lie. Others have trembled with the same fears. Others have sought sleep with the same weight in their chest, and they too were held. Some of them are holding you now, not because you called, but because presence does not need a reason to offer itself. In the Dharma, compassion is not earned. It is given, freely, always. Let your body receive it. Let your breath grow softer. Let the edges of your being blur into the circle. The lines between you and them don't need to be so sharp. You are not separate from the peace you seek. You are not outside the presence you long for. You are inside it now, breathing in it, resting in it. When morning comes, you will rise again. You will carry your work, speak your truth, meet your day. But for now, there is nothing to carry, nothing to solve. The Sangha holds you, the teachings protect you, and the night welcomes your surrender. You are not alone, you never were. Let the silence deepen, let the presence remain. Let your heart rest in the companionship that asks for nothing and offers everything. Now you may sleep, not because the world is perfect, but because you are no longer holding it alone. The stillness has deepened now. You've allowed yourself to feel supported, not just by silence, but by something ancient and wise. You've remembered that presence doesn't always speak out loud, and that real companionship sometimes needs no words at all. But even with that comfort, there may still be one thread the mind refuses to loosen, a pattern that clings just beneath awareness, the momentum of becoming, the subtle push to be someone, even while falling asleep. It shows up in the form of mental rehearsal, roles you don't realize you're still wearing, identities you think you have to keep holding together, even as your eyes begin to close. There's the worker, still calculating, the parent, still anticipating, the friend, still wondering what they should have said, the inner judge, still keeping score. These aren't thoughts, they're identities being reinforced. They create the shape of who you think you are, and that shape, when it hardens, becomes suffering. Bhava means becoming. It's a link in the chain of dependent origination that often goes unnoticed. Because it doesn't scream, it hums, a quiet background hum of identity building. I am the one who must succeed. I am the one who failed today. I am the one who fixes. I am the one who needs to know. I am the one who needs to be seen. Without realizing it, the mind spends every hour reinforcing this idea of self. And when night comes, it doesn't stop. It just changes tone. That's why sleep can feel like resistance. The process of becoming doesn't want to be interrupted. It wants to finish its loop. The mind wants to complete the role it's playing before it can release into rest. But bhava doesn't ever complete itself. That's the trap. Becoming is endless. The role always extends. The story always expands. The mind always finds one more scene to act out. And so you stay awake, not because your body isn't tired, but because your identity is still performing. To fall asleep deeply, you have to step out of the role, not destroy it, not reject it. Just take off the costume. Let go of the idea that you have to continue being anyone at all right now. You are not required to be yourself. You don't have to carry forward the image that got you through the day. You don't need to be the version of you that earned approval, that stayed composed, that kept it all together. You are allowed to dissolve. When the Buddha spoke of bhava, he pointed to this subtle engine that drives the need to exist in a certain way. It's not the same as simply being. It's becoming, a reaching, a shaping, a continuous construction. This process is not bad. It helps us function in the world. But when it goes unchecked, it becomes heavy, especially at night, when nothing else is required of you, but your system still insists on being someone. This is where awareness becomes medicine. Begin to notice which version of yourself is trying to survive this moment. Are you still the thinker, the planner, the caretaker, the achiever? What is the mind holding on to? What image is being protected, repeated, maintained, even as the rest of you longs to rest? You can interrupt this pattern, not by force, but by clarity. The moment you recognize bhava in action, the chain begins to weaken. The momentum slows. You don't have to fight to become someone else. You just stop becoming, right here, right now. The identity pauses, and behind it, there's space. You might feel that letting go of identity is dangerous. Who will protect you if you're not the one in charge? Who will make sure everything is okay? But this fear is built into bhava. It convinces you that without a role, you're nothing. But the truth is, without a role, you're free. Freedom doesn't mean disappearance. It means resting in being without the pressure of becoming. It means allowing your breath to exist without labels. It means letting your awareness return to a neutral state, not defined, not limited, not fixed. This is the ground from which real sleep arises. Not sleep as shutdown, but sleep as return. Start by noticing the tension in the body that corresponds to the role you're still playing. The clenched jaw of the thinker. The lifted shoulders of the responsible one. The tight chest of the one who must be right. These physical cues show you where bhava is still active. When you feel them, soften. Let that role lose its grip. Let the body be just a body again. Let the mind be just space. You don't need to assign meaning to every event from the day. You don't need to finish every thought. The need to complete the story is part of bhava. The need to tie up loose ends before sleep is not a necessity. It's a pattern, and it can be broken. Let yourself become no one. Let your name fall away. Let the titles fade. Let the pressures stop circling. Right now, you are not required to be anything for anyone. You are not a project. You are not a role. You are not the sum of your decisions. You are simply awareness resting in form. Even the idea of being spiritual can be dropped. Even the one trying to practice well can step aside. Perfectionism sneaks into every identity. The one who meditates, the one who grows, the one who improves. Let that one rest too. No progress is needed now. No insight must be gained. You are not here to achieve transformation. You are here to sleep, and that is enough. Bhava creates suffering not because identity is bad, but because identity is impermanent. And the more tightly you grip it, the more painful its changes become. The version of you from yesterday may no longer exist. That's okay. The version of you from tomorrow has not arrived. That's okay too. In this in-between space, you are whole. The mind may protest. It may say, "But I need to be someone. I need to be understood. I need to continue the story." You can thank the mind for its loyalty. You can appreciate its effort, but you don't need to follow it. Thoughts about self are like clouds. They appear, they form meaning, they dissolve. You are not the cloud. You are the sky that sees it all. This seeing is enough. The body breathes. The awareness notices. No doing is required. No becoming is needed. And slowly, without pressure, the mind stops spinning. The roles lose their stickiness. The stories unravel, and sleep approaches not as an interruption to life, but as life returning to itself. Each night, you have this chance to unhook, to release, to allow yourself to dissolve into a state where no one has to be in charge. The world will not fall apart because you stop becoming. In fact, the world keeps moving precisely because everything lets go in its time. There's nothing wrong with the roles you play. There's nothing wrong with being a parent, a teacher, a leader, a student. The problem arises when these roles become cages, when they follow you into rest, when they refuse to let go. And often, the only reason they refuse is because you keep inviting them back. Tonight, choose not to invite them. Thank them, bow to them, and ask them to wait outside the door of sleep. You will return in the morning, but tonight you are free. Bhava thrives in noise, in movement, in narration. When silence is sustained, its power begins to fade. That's why rest is not only healing for the body, it's purification for the mind. The more you rest in stillness, the more bhava begins to loosen. Not forever, not once and for all, but enough to allow spaciousness, enough to let the story pause, enough to let you enter sleep without dragging yourself behind you. Right now, feel what it's like to stop trying to be anything. Let your breath arrive without an agenda. Let the body soften without needing to perform. Let the awareness widen without trying to fix. No label, no shape, just presence. This is not emptiness. This is fullness without form. This is what remains when becoming stops. It is peaceful. It is quiet. It is you, before the roles, before the titles, before the name. And it is from this space that sleep becomes deep. This space where no one is watching, no one is expecting, no one is measuring. There is only the inhale, the exhale, and the soft ground of being that supports it all. You are safe here. You are enough here. And there is nothing more to carry into this night. The story has paused. The becoming has stopped. You have come home. Let go. Breathe. Sleep. You've now let go of the roles, the stories, the need to become. You've returned to the ground of being, where no mask is needed and no identity needs to be protected. But once the silence has settled and the mind begins to soften, something deeper begins to surface, a longing not for more thinking or doing, but for connection. A quiet yearning to feel warmth, to feel belonging, to feel that your heart, in its raw and open state, is not only allowed here, but welcomed. And from that space, the heart doesn't just rest, it begins to shine. This is the point where rest becomes more than physical recovery. It becomes nourishment, not only for the nervous system, but for the deeper layers of the self that seek wholeness. This is where the Brahmaviharas come in, not as abstract principles, but as a living ritual to guide your final steps before sleep. These four qualities, metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha, are known as the divine abodes. Not because they are far away or difficult to reach, but because they are places you can rest in. States of the heart that you can return to again and again. They are not ideas, they are practices. And when brought into the night, they have the power to reshape how you relate to your day, your mind, your past, your future, and most importantly, how you relate to yourself as you drift into sleep. Metta is the foundation. Loving kindness. Not a feeling you have to force, but a gentle intention. The wish for well-being, for safety, for peace. Begin by offering it to yourself, not in words alone, but in how you hold your attention. Let your inner tone soften. Let the judgment dissolve. Let the inner critic step aside. Say quietly within, may I be safe. May I be well. May I rest with ease. This is not a performance. It's a remembering that beneath all the striving and doing, you are worthy of care. The mind may try to argue. It may say, you didn't do enough today to deserve this. That's okay. Offer the wish anyway, even if it feels mechanical at first, even if the heart feels numb. Keep the intention steady. May I be free from harm. May I feel love. May I sleep in peace. And slowly, the heart begins to respond, because kindness is not something you have to feel to offer. It's something you practice into being. Once metta begins to settle, the heart becomes ready for karuna, compassion, not in the abstract, but in direct response to the pain that still lingers in the system. Begin to bring awareness to any place in the body where tension still resides, any emotion that hasn't quite released, any tightness around the edges of the breath, and meet it with care, not to fix, not to push away, but to acknowledge. This hurts, and that's okay. May this pain soften. May I hold it with gentleness. Compassion doesn't mean indulging in pain. It means creating space for it to be seen and held without fear. You can extend this compassion not only to your own experience, but to others who struggled today. Think of someone else who suffered, whether close or far. A stranger, a friend, someone in conflict, someone unseen. May they be held. May their pain ease. May they feel supported. This isn't about solving their problems. It's about keeping their humanity in your heart. When you move into this kind of reflection, the heart begins to widen. And that widening makes room for the next quality, mudita, sympathetic joy. A difficult practice for many, but one that unlocks an immense source of energy. Let your heart open to the joy of others. Think of someone who felt happiness today, someone who succeeded, someone who laughed, someone who found peace, even if only briefly. Instead of comparison, offer joy. May their joy continue. May it grow. May they feel supported in their goodness. You can also reflect on your own joy, moments of delight, even if small, a kind interaction, a soft moment, a breath that felt deep, a moment of laughter or gratitude or connection. Let yourself remember without clinging, without needing it to last. Just feel it. This was real. This happened. Let the heart feel glad. Not because you are escaping the difficult, but because joy is part of truth, too. Joy that is not tied to ownership becomes light. It frees the heart from envy, from resentment, from scarcity. It teaches the nervous system that goodness exists, even when times are hard. That joy is not earned. It can arise for anyone, and we can celebrate it as our own. Even when it's not ours personally, it touches something shared within us. The last of the four, and perhaps the most balancing, is upekkha, equanimity. This is the deep, calm knowing that all things rise and pass, that outcomes are uncertain, that what is within your control is limited, that life is not fair in the way the mind wants it to be, and yet it moves in patterns far beyond our understanding. Equanimity doesn't numb you, it steadies you. It allows you to hold both joy and sorrow without being broken by either. It says, I care, but I will not cling. I feel, but I will not collapse. I am present, but I do not need to control. Let this energy wash over you now, a quiet strength, not forceful, not rigid, just steady. Let your body feel it, like a tree in soft wind, grounded, responsive, unshaken. These four qualities together become a bed for the heart. Not just a metaphor, but a real resting place. As you settle into sleep, you can cycle through them gently. No order is required. Let metta hold your breath. Let karuna soften your muscles. Let mudita warm your chest. Let upekkha quiet your thoughts. You don't need to concentrate. Just remember, this is not a method for better sleep. This is sleep as practice, sleep as offering, sleep as surrender. You're not trying to get anywhere. You're not using the practice to fall asleep. You're letting sleep become part of the practice. The moment the heart settles into these qualities, sleep comes not as escape, but as continuation. The training continues beneath the surface. The mind begins to rest in habits that heal instead of patterns that harm. In time, these qualities begin to shape how you meet your days. You become more patient, more steady, more available to others, more gentle with yourself. But none of that needs to be your focus now. Right now, you are not practicing to change. You are practicing to care for your heart as it is, to let it rest in something real. If thoughts arise during this process, you don't need to resist them. Just meet them with one of the Brahma Viharas. A harsh thought, offer metta. A painful memory, hold it with karuna. A bitter comparison, soften into mudita. A sense of overwhelm, anchor in upekkha. Each one becomes a tool, each one becomes a doorway. You are not trapped in thought, you are being invited to practice. Eventually the thinking slows, the heart grows quiet, the body releases what is left, not all at once, but enough. Enough to allow sleep to come in, to wrap you in stillness, to return you to yourself. This is the divine home, not far away, but right here in the middle of the night, with no temple, no ritual, just breath and care and presence. Let yourself remain here. There is nowhere else you need to be. You are not late. You are not wrong. You are not unfinished. You are whole. And the heart knows what to do. Let it rest. Let it soften. Let it return to kindness. And sleep will follow, not as an interruption to the path, but as part of the path itself. The heart has softened. The mind is quieter. You've met the night, not with resistance, but with care. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, and balance have created a deep space for surrender. And now, something deeper is ready to be touched, not with thought, not with reflection, but with awareness. Not the kind that analyzes, but the kind that feels, the kind that listens to what's been there all along, waiting. Because even after calming the emotions and easing the mind, the body often still carries the day, in its shoulders, in its breath, in its bones. And this body, your body, is the doorway to deeper rest. Mindfulness of the body, known as Kayanupassana, is a practice of direct connection. It brings awareness out of the mind and into the living truth of this moment as felt through form. It is not about controlling the body or fixing it. It's not about achieving stillness. It's about seeing what is already here, clearly, kindly, with total presence. In sleep preparation, this is not just helpful. It is sacred. Because while the mind can let go of thoughts and the heart can soften around emotions, the body needs to be felt to release what it carries. That release doesn't come from force. It comes from attention, noticing without pressure, allowing without expectation. Begin by feeling the body not as one solid mass, but as a field of sensation, each area alive in its own way, each part telling its own story. Your awareness can move through this field like water meeting earth. No need to dig, no need to rush. Just visit each area gently. Start at the top of the head. Feel the scalp, the forehead. Is there tension there? Is there warmth or coolness, tingling or stillness? Not to judge, just to notice. Then let the awareness drop into the eyes, the muscles around them. Let them soften. Then to the jaw, the mouth, the back of the neck. Each place a doorway, each part a message. Mindfulness of the body is not about scanning for pain. It's about intimacy, getting close to the real, simple experience of being alive. This body breathes. This body rests. This body carries you through the day. It deserves to be seen, not as a machine, not as a task, but as a living temple of presence. Let your attention rest in the shoulders. Feel the way they rise and fall with each breath, the heaviness they may carry, not just from posture, but from the invisible burdens of the day. Stress, roles, emotional tension. Let them be heavy now. Let them sink into the surface beneath you. Let the earth hold what you don't need to carry. Move to the arms, the hands, each finger, not to tighten or stretch, just to know they are there. The body relaxes more deeply when it feels seen. Your attention is not just neutral, it is healing. Every moment of mindful awareness brings the nervous system closer to rest. Not because you're doing anything, but because you've stopped resisting what is. Feel the chest next. Not just the breath, but the heart space, the lungs expanding and releasing. Let them move without instruction. Feel the rhythm they follow without your help. This rhythm is life itself, reliable, ancient, undisturbed by thought. Bring awareness to the abdomen, the belly. Notice if there is holding there. Many people carry tension in this area without realizing it. Not because of posture, but because of emotion. The gut is sensitive. It responds to fear, worry, urgency. Let the breath move freely here. No control, just presence. Let the muscles soften. Let the inner organs settle. Let the whole area be open, unguarded, loose. Let awareness continue down to the hips, the pelvis, the thighs, areas that often hold deep, unconscious tightness. These places carry you through the world. They hold weight, physical and emotional. Let that weight drop now. You don't have to support it, not tonight. Bring attention to the knees, the calves, the ankles, the feet, each point where your body meets the bed, the floor, the surface beneath you. These contact points are not passive, they are anchors. Let your awareness feel the support they offer. Grounding, steady, real. When mindfulness rests in the body, the mind naturally slows. Not because you're making it slow, but because the need to think diminishes. The body becomes more interesting than the thoughts, the sensations more vivid than the narratives, the breath more soothing than the mental noise. This is not detachment. This is return. Most people live above the neck, thinking, analyzing, preparing. But your life is not just in the head. It is in your skin, your breath, your heartbeat, your posture, your weight. When you return to the body, you return to wholeness, and wholeness leads to rest. Kayanupassana also includes awareness of posture, not as something to fix, but something to feel. Lying down, notice how your spine aligns. Notice how gravity pulls you into the ground. Notice the curves, the contact, the openness. Nothing needs to be changed, only known. You can also be aware of the body in motion, even the subtle motion of the breath, the rise and fall, the expansion and contraction. Breath becomes a wave. You ride it without effort. Each cycle a reminder that the body is doing its job, supporting you, serving you, trusting you to meet it with kindness. This kind of mindfulness is not active doing. It is passive intimacy. You are not trying to achieve a state. You are allowing the current state to be felt, fully, without pushing, without flinching. When the body is felt clearly, emotional tension often dissolves, because much of what the mind calls anxiety is simply unacknowledged physical discomfort. Tightness in the gut becomes fear. Shallow breath becomes panic. But when those sensations are met directly, without mental interpretation, they begin to change. The body calms when it is not abandoned. Sleep does not require total stillness. It requires safety, and safety begins with attention. When the body is known without judgment, it begins to feel safe again. Safe to let go, safe to rest, safe to drop into the deeper states of quiet that support true recovery. This practice is not something you master. It is something you return to. Every night, the body is different. Every night, the breath carries new information. You don't need to compare. You don't need to evaluate. You only need to feel. If the mind begins to wander, bring it back to sensation, not through control, through curiosity. What does the hand feel like now? What temperature is the breath? What texture is the space around the skin? Let sensation be your anchor. Let awareness be your home. Kayanupassana also includes reflection on the body's nature, its impermanence, its changing condition. This does not create fear. It creates perspective. This body is not fixed. It ages, it changes, it heals, it responds to care, and that change is part of its beauty. You are not trapped in this form. You are living through it, And when you care for it with mindfulness, it becomes not just a vehicle, but a refuge. Let the breath now become your central focus. Not in a sharp way, in a gentle, open way. Let it move through the body like a breeze through a forest, touching each part, clearing what is stagnant, softening what is tight, bringing nourishment to every cell. There is no perfect way to do this. There is only the invitation to stay close, to not drift too far into abstraction, to not float too far into thought. Stay here, in the breath, in the limbs, in the subtle movements. Stay here. When mindfulness is steady, the inner environment becomes silent. Not because you've forced it, but because everything is being heard. The body has spoken. You have listened. There is nothing left to say, only peace to feel. And now, as you rest in this silence, the body begins to shift into sleep, not out of exhaustion, but out of trust. The system knows it is safe. The mind knows it is not needed. The heart knows it is held. This is the sacred path into sleep, not by escape, not by shutting down, but by returning, fully, gently, here, now, in the breath, in the body, in awareness. Let that be enough, and let the night carry you from here. The breath has slowed, the body has been met with care. Awareness has returned to the living truth of this moment. Still, even with the nervous system calm and the physical form fully seen, sleep may remain just out of reach. The body is ready, but the mind, in its subtle movements, still resists. The thoughts are no longer loud, but something else lingers, a sense of self struggling against the silence. A quiet inner voice that says, I can't sleep, I'm doing something wrong, why can't I just let go? This is not restlessness of the body, this is the clinging of identity. A sense of self wrapped tightly around a moment it can't control. This is where the practice of non-self becomes essential. Anatta, one of the core insights of the Buddha's teaching, is not a rejection of personality or denial of existence. It is a clear seeing into the absence of a permanent, separate self. It is the recognition that what we call me is not one solid thing, but a changing collection of thoughts, sensations, roles, memories, habits, and that none of it is fixed. None of it is truly who we are. When insomnia arises, the suffering is not only in the wakefulness, it is in the personal story that forms around it. I am failing. I should be asleep by now. There must be something wrong with me. These are not neutral observations. They are identity statements. They take a temporary condition and turn it into a personal failure. But through the lens of non-self, these thoughts can be questioned. Who is the I that isn't sleeping? Where is this fixed identity that believes it must be in control? What happens when you stop identifying with the one who struggles? The practice is not about suppressing thoughts. It's about seeing through them. When a thought arises, I can't sleep, notice it as an event, not a fact. It is a thought, not a truth. It has no owner. It appears, it lingers, it fades. You did not create it. You do not need to follow it. When there is no one clinging to the thought, it loses its power. Anatta invites you to observe experience without clinging to ownership. This body lies in bed. These sensations arise. These thoughts come and go, but none of them define you. There is no fixed self inside the body failing to rest. There is just experience flowing. Thought, breath, sound, silence, all of it appearing and disappearing without a center. This shift in perception does not require force. It requires honesty. Start with what is here now. There is a thought saying this should feel different. See it. Let it float. Then look closer. What makes that thought feel like yours? Is there a shape, a center, a self holding it together? Or is it just a familiar echo repeating itself out of habit? Insomnia becomes heavier when there is identification. The tension builds not from being awake, but from believing that wakefulness is a problem you must solve. But when the sense of ownership fades, the pressure begins to loosen. Wakefulness becomes just another state, like hunger or cold or rest. It does not mean anything about you. It does not need a narrative. Even the phrase, "I can't sleep," creates contraction. It defines you in relation to what is not happening. But what if there is no I at the center of that story? Then the whole structure collapses. There is just wakefulness without resistance. And in that space, rest can begin. This doesn't mean sleep will arrive instantly, but it means the fight begins to dissolve. The war with the night ends. The urgency fades, and from that, peace can grow. Non-self also reveals something deeper about how suffering operates. When we suffer, we often believe there is a self who is being punished, a self who deserves better or worse. But suffering doesn't need a self to exist. It just needs attachment to impermanent things. Sleep is one of those things, desired, chased, clung to. And when it does not come, we blame the imagined self. But through the lens of anatta, that blame loses meaning. The person who couldn't sleep last night is not the same as the one lying here now. Experience has changed. The mind has moved. The sensations have shifted. You are not a constant. So why hold the same narrative across these changing states? Let the thought, "I'm a bad sleeper," appear. Then look at it with clear awareness. Is this a fact, or is it a habit of identity? Has it always been true? Does it serve peace? When you look deeply, these identity thoughts begin to unravel. What's left is just presence, just breath, just body, no label, no judgment, no one failing. Anatta also helps with perfectionism, the idea that there is a right way to fall asleep, that your practice must lead to results, that progress must be linear. All of these are tied to self-view, a subtle desire to be the one who does it right, the meditator who succeeds, the peaceful one. But those identities are just as sticky as any other, and they bring the same suffering. Let them go too. Rest happens when there is space, when the mind no longer needs to prove something, when the body is not pressured to perform, when awareness is free to observe without commentary. This is what anatta offers, not a void, but a freedom. The freedom to experience life without carrying the burden of being someone inside it. You are not the thoughts about sleep. You are not the one judging the breath. You are not the voice predicting tomorrow's exhaustion. These are processes. They happen on their own, like clouds passing in the sky. You don't need to own them. You don't need to stop them. Just see them as they are, temporary, impersonal, fading. This perspective is not disconnection. It is deeper connection. Not with the story of self, but with what's actually happening. When the narrative dissolves, the senses come alive. The feel of the blanket, the sound of the night air, the rhythm of the breath. These simple things become vivid. They require no identity, just attention. As attention settles, the need for identity fades. The mind stops looking for someone to be. There is just seeing, just knowing, just being. Not as a self, but as awareness itself. And this awareness doesn't resist anything. It doesn't demand sleep. It doesn't argue with wakefulness. It just watches. And in that watching, peace arises. This is the practice, not a method, not a goal, a direct seeing over and over. When the mind says, "I am awake," you say, "There is wakefulness." When the mind says, "I'm failing," you say, "There is judgment." No pushback, no fight, just seeing. Over time, the mind begins to believe the new pattern, that there is no you to protect, no you to defend, no you to fix, just moments unfolding, just experience flowing, no center, no stuckness, no self-clinging. Insomnia may still arise, but it won't define you. It won't harden into suffering. It will be a visitor, temporary, harmless, and maybe, without the story, it will pass more quickly, or maybe not. Either way, the peace is the same, because peace was never about sleep. It was about release. Now, as you lie here, feel the breath again. Let go of the one who is tracking it. Let go of the one who is trying. Just feel, just be. Let the body rest without being anyone. Let the thoughts rise without needing to belong to them. Let sleep come or not. It no longer defines anything. You are already whole, already free. And the night holds you without needing a name. The grip of identity has loosened. You've begun to witness experience as it is, without placing yourself at the center of every thought. The sense of "I am failing" has softened into the awareness that thoughts, sensations, and moods come and go on their own, without needing to define who you are. But even with this clarity, there is another layer that often hides beneath wakefulness, a layer that doesn't come from what's happening, but from how you respond to it. It's not the experience itself that causes the deepest suffering, but the way you carry it forward long after the moment has passed. That's where the second arrow comes in. In Buddhist psychology, there is a teaching that says, when something painful happens, that is the first arrow. It is life doing what life does. A difficulty, a discomfort, a moment of sadness, frustration, or disappointment. These are part of being human. But then the mind often reacts with judgment, resistance, and self-blame. It adds a second arrow, deeper, sharper, and often longer lasting than the first. This is the suffering that we create ourselves. Before bed, this second arrow often hides in the thoughts we replay. Maybe something went wrong during the day. Someone said something you didn't like. You made a mistake. You forgot something important. These are the first arrows, painful but temporary. But the second arrow comes when the mind says, "Why did I do that? What's wrong with me? I always mess things up." These thoughts don't just notice pain. They stab into it. They prolong it. They feed it. At night, these second arrows often disguise themselves as reflection, But they are not clarity, they are self-punishment. You may feel like you're trying to understand your day, but what you're really doing is repeating the same criticism again and again, hoping it will change something. But the past won't change. What can change is how much of it you carry into your rest. The first step is to recognize the difference. Begin to notice when your thoughts are simply naming what happened, and when they are layering on stories about what it means. I forgot to send the message is the first arrow. I'm irresponsible and people must be disappointed in me is the second. One is a fact, the other is suffering added by the mind. You can learn to stop before the second arrow. Or if you've already shot it, you can learn to pull it out gently. You don't need to keep it embedded in your thinking. The way to do that is not to argue with the mind, but to meet it with understanding. You can say, yes, this happened. Yes, it was unpleasant, but I don't need to make it worse. That is already a doorway to peace. This practice isn't about ignoring mistakes. It's about responding without harm. You can acknowledge what went wrong without attacking yourself. You can learn without tearing yourself down. In fact, you learn more when you're not afraid of your own mind. When the inner environment is safe, insight becomes possible. When the mind stops punishing itself, sleep becomes easier. The second arrow can also take the form of anxiety. You feel tired but can't rest because you're thinking about what might happen tomorrow. The first arrow is the uncertainty. The second is the spiral of imagined disasters, self-blame, or rehearsed arguments that haven't even happened. You might say, what if I mess up tomorrow's presentation? That's already the second arrow. The future hasn't come, but the pain is already here, built from thought alone. Let go of the belief that you can prepare for peace by suffering in advance. Let go of the idea that punishing yourself now will protect you later. The second arrow pretends to be useful. It tells you that worry equals responsibility, that guilt equals